A biography became a target before most readers ever had the chance to open it. Not a weapon, not a ransom note, not a confession, a book. In October 1987, Russell Miller's Barefaced Messiah, the true story of L. Ron Hubbard, entered public circulation in the United Kingdom. It was a critical, posthumous biography of the founder of Scientology, and almost immediately, the fight around it became larger than literary criticism. It moved through publishers, lawyers, investigators, and courts. It crossed national borders. It reached the Court of Appeal of England and Wales, the Federal Court of Canada, and the Supreme Court of the United States. At the center was a question that still has not fully gone away. Was this simply a copyright battle over unpublished documents? Or was it part of a broader campaign to stop a damaging biography from reaching the public? This is Barefaced Messiah. A book fight reached 3 national courts. L. Ron Hubbard was not just the founder of Scientology. To the Church of Scientology, his life story was part of the movement's identity. He was presented as an author, explorer, humanitarian, and spiritual innovator. His biography was not a side issue. It was tied to the organization's public image and internal history. By the 1980s, Scientology was already one of the most controversial religious movements of the 20th century. Journalists, former members, litigants, and public agencies had all examined it. Critics accused the organization of being unusually aggressive in defending itself and its founder. Supporters saw attacks on Hubbard as attacks on a religion. Into that environment stepped Russell Miller, a British journalist known for documentary research. He was not writing an authorized tribute. He was writing a critical biography that tested the official account of Hubbard's life against records, papers, and first-hand material. The title alone made the position clear: Barefaced Messiah. The book's force came from its sources. Miller quoted extensively from official documents obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, the legal route that allowed certain government records to be brought into public view. He also used Hubbard's personal papers, obtained through a defector from Scientology. That combination mattered. The book was not framed as a general attack based only on opinion or rumor. It placed the church's account of Hubbard's life beside documentary material and invited readers to examine the contradictions. In a pre-digital publishing world, the fight was carried in paper: manuscripts, photocopied records, legal files, source notes, correspondence, and court submissions. And in that world, paper could be dangerous. On 26 October 1987, Barefaced Messiah was first published in the United Kingdom. The available facts do not identify the first bookstore, the first customer, or the first copy removed from a box. But that date marks the moment the manuscript became a published book. The subject was dead. The controversy was not. The Church of Scientology strongly opposed the publication. The book challenged its account of Hubbard's life and work, and the response did not remain a private disagreement between a biographer and an institution. Barefaced Messiah was also published in Australia, Canada, and the United States, turning the dispute into an international fight over access, reputation, copyright, and control. Scientology and related corporate entities attempted to prevent publication through legal action. These were not marginal proceedings. The litigation reached major courts in 3 countries: the Court of Appeal of England and Wales, the Federal Court of Canada, and the Supreme Court of the United States. The public legal arguments focused on copyright and publication rights. The central issue was the use of unpublished Hubbard material. Could a biographer quote from those sources in a critical account? Did fair use or freedom of expression protect that use? Or did copyright law give rights holders the power to restrict publication? In the United States, the outcome became especially significant. The Supreme Court allowed a lower court's ruling to stand, denying fair use protection for the biography's use of unpublished sources. The result became a precedent favoring copyright protection for unpublished material over a biographer's freedom of speech. That decision reached beyond Russell Miller and beyond Scientology. It showed that the most sensitive point in a biography might not be the author's conclusions. It might be the evidence the author used to reach them. But the legal fight was only one part of the story. Alongside the courtroom proceedings were darker allegations. The Church of Scientology was accused of organizing a smear and harassment campaign against Miller and his publisher. The organization strenuously denied that allegation. A private investigator involved in the campaign also denied that Scientology was his client. Those denials are part of the record. They matter. They prevent the story from being reduced to a single uncontested accusation. But the allegations changed the shape of the case. If the dispute was only about copyright, the proper arena was court. If it was also about pressure, intimidation, and reputational damage, then the book fight had moved into a different category. The central question became not only whether Barefaced Messiah could legally quote unpublished material, but who was trying to stop it, how they were trying to stop it, and how far they were prepared to go. The timeline became more troubling in 1990. 3 years after the book's first British publication, internal Scientology documents were leaked to the press. Those documents disclosed many details of the alleged campaign against Miller and his publisher. The leak did not create the controversy. The controversy was already visible. A critical biography published in 1987, strong opposition from the Church of Scientology, litigation involving Scientology-related entities, and allegations of harassment met by firm denials. But the leak changed what could be seen. Before 1990, the allegation of a smear or harassment campaign could be presented as one side's claim against another side's denial. After the leak, journalists had internal material that appeared to reveal more detail about the opposition to Miller and his publisher. Still, the leaked documents did not produce a clean final answer. They did not create a simple verdict assigning responsibility for every alleged act. They did not fully close the gap between public denials and private planning. They widened the record, but they did not settle it. That is why this case remains so unusual. It is not a mystery built around a missing body or a hidden weapon. It is a mystery built around documents. Who controlled them? Who quoted them? Who tried to suppress them? And what other documents later appeared to reveal? The first theory is the broadest, that the Church of Scientology, or people acting in its interests, moved aggressively to suppress or discredit Barefaced Messiah because the book threatened the official story of L. Ron Hubbard. This theory fits several known facts. The Church strongly opposed publication. Scientology-related entities were involved in litigation. The book challenged Hubbard's public image, which was central to the organization's identity. And in 1990, internal Scientology documents were leaked to the press, disclosing details of the alleged campaign against Miller and his publisher. But this theory also has limits. The church denied organizing harassment or a smear campaign. The private investigator involved also denied that Scientology was his client. The public record does not provide one final criminal finding that assigns responsibility for every alleged tactic. The second theory is narrower, that the battle was primarily about copyright and control of unpublished source material. This explanation fits the legal record. Miller's biography used official documents and Hubbard's personal papers. The use of unpublished material became central in the United States. The Supreme Court allowed a lower court decision to stand, leaving in place a ruling that denied fair use protection for the biography's use of unpublished sources. Under this view, the case was not mainly about suppressing criticism. It was about protecting rights in unpublished papers. The conflict became intense because the documents themselves were sensitive, and because control over those documents shaped control over Hubbard's public legacy. But this theory does not fully answer the allegations outside court. It explains the lawsuits. It does not completely explain the claims of smear and harassment, or why internal documents leaked in 1990 would become so important to understanding the campaign. The third theory places intermediaries at the center: private investigators, outside operatives, and deniable actors, whose actions may have created distance between institutions and tactics. This theory helps explain why the record feels both revealing and incomplete. It fits a situation where public denials exist, while allegations of pressure remain. It also fits the difficulty of tracing responsibility through lawyers, rights holders, investigators, publishers, and related entities. But it too leaves gaps. The available facts do not provide a complete public map of who ordered each act, who approved each tactic, or how every part of the alleged campaign was connected. What remains is a fractured record. Barefaced Messiah was first published in the United Kingdom on 26 October 1987. It later appeared in Australia, Canada, and the United States. It relied on official documents obtained through the Freedom of Information Act and personal Hubbard papers obtained through a Scientology defector. It was praised by reviewers for the strength of its research, with one review calling it the best and most comprehensive biography of L. Ron Hubbard. At the same time, it became the subject of legal actions intended to prevent publication. The dispute reached senior courts in the United Kingdom, Canada, and the United States. In America, the Supreme Court allowed a lower ruling to stand, creating a precedent that favored copyright protection for unpublished material over a biographer's fair use claim. And then, in 1990, internal Scientology documents were leaked to the press, revealing details of the alleged campaign against Miller and his publisher. The book survived. The controversy did not disappear. For journalists and biographers, the case carried a warning. A powerful institution may not need to disprove a book in public if it can challenge the documents behind it, pressure the publisher, and fight publication across jurisdictions. For readers, the case exposed how fragile access to controversial biography can be when unpublished records are controlled by the very people or institutions most affected by them. For Scientology and its supporters, attacks on Hubbard's life story were not neutral historical exercises. They struck at a founder whose image was bound to the movement itself. For critics, the intensity of the opposition seemed to confirm that Miller had touched something sensitive. But certainty remains out of reach. The courts answered parts of the legal question. The leaked documents answered parts of the factual question. The denials remain part of the record. The allegations remain part of the record, and between them is the unresolved space where this case still lives. If the fight over Barefaced Messiah was only about copyright, why did the leaked internal documents later appear to reveal so much more? Follow Whispered Cases for a new case every week. Subscribe so you never miss one.